So we were talking about file organization in the previous class, ma. If at all you remember that. I've just given a brief about different kinds of file organizations that are existing. Okay. Now, we were talking about file organization, the different kinds of file organization, sequential, heap, hash, B plus tree, clustered, all this stuff, ma. And I've already spoken about what you mean by a sequential file organization and what are the different methods that it has. Okay, the first one was file method. So what is file method? How do you insert a new record into the file? All that stuff we have already discussed. So the next one was sorted file method. So what do you mean by a sorted file method? How a record is being inserted into a sorted file. So as in the case of file method, here also the record is inserted at the end of the file and then it is sorted accordingly. Suppose there is a pre-existing sorted sequence of 4 records. Already I've shown you that. And a new record wants to be inserted into the sequence, then it will be inserted at the end of the file first, and then it will be sorted in the sequence. Okay, so this way, R2 is a new record that needs to be inserted into the file. This is the starting of the file, this is the ending of the file, and after sorted, this is the structure of the file that is existing. So R2 has gone into its proper position. Okay, now talking about the next file organization, it is heap file organization. So we are going with a heap file organization, and again it's one of the most simplest and basic type of file organization. And it works with the concept of data blocks. So memory is divided into blocks. The memory is divided into blocks. Okay. In heap file organization, the records are always inserted at the end of the file and does not require any kind of sorting or ordering of the records that needs to be inserted into the file. Okay. And whenever I feel that a particular data block is full, then the new record that needs to be stored is stored in some other block which is empty. So it need not be in a sequence. That is the major difference. It need not be in a sequence. Rather, wherever the position is empty, at that particular position of the block, the new record would be inserted. Okay. This new data block need not be the very next data block. That is the reason I told you it need not be sequential, but it can select any data block in the memory to store the new records. And it is usually called as an unordered file organization because we are not following any particular order. We are not following any particular order. That is the reason we can say it's an unordered file organization technique. Okay. So see here, these are the data records that need to be stored. Each record is given a particular sequence number. It might be based on any of the columns values each record is stored in blocks of memory. If at all I assume the block size is 2, here block size is 2. So there are 5 records, and these records are stored into the blocks according to the space that is there. Okay, now this particular block is empty over here. You can see in data block 1, this particular position is empty because R1 is put into 637, R3 is put into 273, R6 is put into 963, R4 is put into 474, and R5 is put into 736. And usually what we assume would be whenever a new record that needs to be inserted into a file usually goes into the end position. Means this is my data block 3. And if at all I want to insert a new record, R new, then I assume that this would be the position where my new record would be stored. But what is happening here is this is already full because there are 2 pointers already that are pointing to this particular data block. And what is the empty data block over here? The empty data block is data block 1, which is nothing but 538 is the position. Okay, so whenever I want to insert a new record, suppose we have already 5 records are there, R1, R3, R6, R4, R5 in the heap, and we want to enter a new record R2. A new record R2, if the data block 3 is full, according to our diagram, the data block D3 or data block 3 is full. So what is happening over here? Try to see. This is the new record that needs to be entered. It searches for this particular block. This is completely full, and randomly it does not go to the next block of memory. It does not go to the next block of memory. Rather, wherever there is empty space in the data blocks, that particular position, this would be shared. So R2 is stored into 538, which is the data block 1. I hope it's clear. Now, if we want to search, update, or delete the data in the heap file, then first we need to search for that particular record. So what we have to do is we have to traverse the file from the beginning of the file to the end of the file in order to find the file. And once we feel that a particular record which is required has been found, then if at all I want to perform an update, if at all I want to delete it, all that stuff I can do with respect to searching of the record. So this is about your heap file organization. Then moving to the next kind of file organization, this is nothing but hash. So what we are trying to do in hash file organization, again, we are using the concept of data blocks in memory, but the major difference would be here we are trying to find a hash function. Here we are trying to find a hash function. So based on which we are trying to locate a memory in the computer where we can store the records. Okay, so try to see the definition. Hash file organization uses the computation of a hash function. What we are trying to do is we are trying to find a value where a particular record can be stored using the concept of a hash function. The simplest example would be, I'll go with the concept of a modulus operator. I can go with mod 5, I can go with mod 4, I can go with mod 20, anything. Okay, based on the size of the bucket. Okay, now on some fields of the records. So hash function on some fields of the records. The hash function's outputs determines the location of this block. That is what I've told you. So based on the hash function generated, you're just trying to locate in the memory a place wherein you can store the record. Okay, so this is the diagrammatical representation of how we are storing the records. Okay, when a record has to be received using hash key columns, then the address is generated and the whole record is retrieved using that particular address. So what you have to do is whenever you're trying to insert a record into the memory, if at all you are using a particular hash function, and whenever you want to retrieve that particular records, again you have to use the same hash function. You have to use the same hash function. See here, when a new record has to be inserted, then the address is generated using the hash key and the record is directly inserted. And the same process is applied in the case of delete and update. So what is the meaning of this is you cannot use different hash functions in order to insert or delete or update the records into a file. So if at all you use a hash function called mod4, modulus of 4, in order to insert the record into the memory, then in order to search for a particular record or delete the particular record or update the particular record, you have to again use the same hash function, or else it gives you a different address. Maybe the record might be found, but it is not necessary that it is giving you the same record which you are actually looking for. That is the concept what is used in hashing. What will happen is the search overhead would be reduced. Whenever you are using the concept of hashing, the search overhead would be reduced. Okay, why it would be reduced? Because you're directly going to the memory address where the record would be placed using the hash function. Okay. So see here, data records are there, R1, R3, R6, R4, so on, data blocks in memory. If at all you want to store a new record, again you are just generating the hash function, looking for the memory address which has been generated by the hash function, and there you are going to put the record. And if at all that particular record is already filled, so maybe I have generated a hash function for R2 and it is giving me address AA4BF, or it is giving me a value 1. So this might be termed as 1, or address is AA4BF. So R1, what is this? R4 and R2 are giving me the same addresses. Then it leads to the concept of collision. Why it leads to the concept of collision? Because already the memory place is filled by some other record and I cannot put the same record in the same position. That leads to the concept of collision in hashing. Is it clear, ma? Or you have any problems with the first one, heap and hash file organization? Is it clear, or any issues, ma? Okay. Now, the next one is B plus file organization. It is kind of a tree, B plus tree. Okay. So B plus tree file organization is an advanced method of ISAM. ISAM will be covering. It uses the concept of keying. So what we are trying to use in the B plus tree would be, you're going to work with the concept of a primary key, which is used to sort the records, Okay. The B plus tree is similar to a BST, binary search tree, but it can have more than 2 children. So what is the condition with the BST would be, you have only 2 children, left and right child. But whenever you're talking about storing data with respect to your B plus tree, here you can have more than 2 children. And whenever you're working with B plus file organization, all the records are stored only at the leaf nodes. Only at the leaf nodes. What do you mean by a leaf node? Which does not have any children. Okay. In this method, Try to read this ma. In this method, all the records are stored only at the leaf node, and the intermediate nodes act as pointers to the leaf nodes through which you can go to the bottom level. So the intermediate nodes acts as a pointer to the leaf nodes, wherein they do not contain any records. The intermediate nodes do not contain any records. So here is a sample example you can see. This is the root node. These are the intermediate nodes, and these are the leaf nodes. So this is the position where the actual data is stored. This is the position where the actual data is stored, which is nothing but your leaf node. So whenever you want to traverse, you have got a complete process of B+tree. I'm just talking about the introduction over here. So B+tree, how we are going to insert, how we are going to search, how we are going to delete. I'll be giving you a clear idea on that. Okay. So 25, towards the left of 25, I'll be having elements which are less than 25. Towards the right of 25, I'll be having elements which are greater than 25. So looking at the first two levels, 15 is less than 25. That is the reason it has come towards the left, and 30 is greater than 25. It has come towards the right. So how we are going to insert, how we are going to work with all this stuff, I'll be telling you in the next class. Okay. So this is about your B+tree. And the next important concept is your indexing in DBMS, index file organization. So the indexing is used to optimize the performance of a database by minimizing the number of disk access required when a query is processed. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to reduce the time overhead when you require to search for some information. Okay. So I'll just go with a small example on indexing so that you understand. See here. Assume that there are 100 rows in a database. Assume there are 100 rows in a database within a table consisting of maybe some columns. I've taken here the columns. I hope you can see this, ma. One second, I'll just increase the size. Okay, so see, assume there are 100 rows in a database within a table consisting EID, ename, department, section, address. And it is stored on the disk in the form of blocks, and the block size is 512 bytes. So I'm assuming that the size of the block is 512. Now, according to my assumption, each record takes 128 bytes. Each record takes 128 bytes. Okay, meaning I can store 4 records in a block of memory. So 512 by 4 is 128. I can store 4 records in 512 bytes of memory. So see here. In each block, we can store 4 records. And in order to store 100 records, I require 25 blocks of memory. Okay, I require 25 blocks of memory. Assuming that the blocks are labeled block 1, block 2, block 3, so on, block 25. And in order to look for an employee, we have to check at most 25 blocks. I hope it's clear to you. Instead of checking 100 blocks of memory, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to check 25 blocks of memory. So what will happen with this would be, in order to reduce this, we are going for indexing. Okay. Now what will happen? See, my 100 records are stored into 25 blocks. Now, if at all, I want to search for the 99th record. I want to search for the 99th record. I want to search for 99th record. Now what I have to do? I have to check almost all the 25 records from block 1 to block 25 until I find what the 99th record. I have to keep on searching. So searching each block is assumed to be taking 1 minute. So according to me, I assume that 99 is present in the 25th block. So what will happen? I'll be working with 24 minutes in order to search for the record 99, if at all I'm going in the normal process. But if at all I work with the concept of indexing, see what happens. What is the advantage of indexing over here? In order to look for an employee, we have to check at most 25 blocks. And in order to reduce this, we are going for the concept of indexing. Okay, so we are going for the concept of indexing. In index, we store the key and a pointer to the record. The index is also stored in the disk only, and it takes less space as compared to the main table. Now, my main table is consisting of 25 addresses. Okay, 25 blocks addresses would be there. And my index table would be consisting of pointers to these 25 blocks. Okay, now whenever I'm looking for a data item 99, so I can see first is 1 to 4, the second is 5 to 8, the third is 9 to 13, so on. So based on the address, I can go directly to the 25th block. Maybe searching of blocks is requiring me 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, internally, I might take 1 minute. So instead of wasting 24 minutes, using the concept of indexing, I'm trying to waste or work with the same thing in 5 minutes. This is just an example. Okay, so why we are going with the concept of indexing? Or in order to make it simple, what I'll do is, I'll just go with the concept of your textbook example. So whenever you see a textbook, if at all you want to search for a particular topic, searching for a particular topic using indexing is easy, or without an index is easy. All of you just try to answer this. Searching for a particular topic would be easier if at all you have an index, or without an index. Indexing. Why indexing is easy? See, assume that you are looking for file organization. File organization is in the 550th page. So from the beginning of the book, from page 1, you are just trying to turn each page and look for file organization without the concept of index. And with the concept of index, what is happening is you are just trying to search the index. In order to search the index, once you see the topic file organization, there would be an address provided to you, which is nothing but your page number in the textbook. So you're wasting 2 minutes to search for the index. Then you have got file organization. There you will see the page number 555. You directly go to page number 555. And there you can read file organization. So instead of looking over each and every page in order to search for file organization, what you're trying to do is you're directly trying to go to a particular position in the book where file organization is placed. That is the advantage of using your indexing. I hope it's clear, or you have any questions in indexing concept. All of you, any problems? Okay. Now see, usually the structure of an index looks like this one. This is the search key, this is the data reference. So where the actual data is stored. So it's usually divided into 2 blocks. The first column of the database is the search key. that contains a copy of the primary key or the candidate key. So usually you work on the concept of a primary key or a candidate key of the table. And the values of the primary key are stored in sorted order. Try to remember this. So here, the values are stored in a sorted order so that the corresponding data can be easily accessed. So if at all the data is sorted, it would be easier for me to search for the data. And if at all the data is not in a sorted order, again I have to go through each and everything. Okay, that is one of the reasons why the data is in a sorted order. And the second column of the database is the data reference, where the actual data is stored. It contains a set of pointers holding the address of the disk block. Okay, so where the value of this particular search key can be found. Maybe I'm looking for employee 001. The search key is primary key, which is nothing but your employee ID. Assume the search key to be an employee ID. So you are looking for employee 001. So corresponding to employee 001, there would be a data reference, which is nothing but the memory address of the block where that particular data item is stored, where the value of the particular key can be found, which is nothing but the details of employee 001. The details of the employee 001 can be found. Okay, that is the concept. Next, you've got different kinds of indexing methods: order index, primary index, clustered index, and secondary index. You're going to work with these kinds of things. The most simplest would be the concept of primary index. Primary index. So see, what I mean by a primary index would be whenever I create the index based on the primary key value of a table. So I'm using the search key as the primary key. Then we call this method as primary indexing. And these primary keys are unique for each record. All of us know that the primary key values cannot be repeated. The primary key values cannot be repeated. Hence, the relation between the primary key and the records would be 1:1. Okay. And since the primary keys are stored in a sorted order, I've already told you, you're storing the keys in a sorted order, then the performance and searching would be quite efficient. The performance and searching would be quite efficient. And we can divide primary index concepts into two categories. The first one is dense index and the second one is sparse index. The first one is dense index and the second one is sparse index. Now, what I mean by dense index? Are you able to see the document, Are you able to understand, all of you? Or I'm going a bit fast? Okay, see, dense index. The dense index contains an index record for every search key value. For every search key value, you are creating an index and it makes searching faster. The main problem with dense index would be the number of records in the index table is the same as the number of records in the main table. Why this is happening? Because I'm creating an index for each and every record of the table. The search key, with respect to the search key, I'm creating an index for each and every record of the table. And that is the reason why this concept requires a lot of memory. Because you are trying to store everything. So it needs more space. to store the index record itself. So if at all you have 1000 records in your table, you need to store the index for each one of the 1000 records. So the size of the index table would be 1000. The size of the main table where the data's address is stored will also be 1000. Okay. Right. So this is the concept. See here, this is the index table. This is the main table where that particular value is stored. So maybe the records are, the primary key value is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So there are 8 rows in my table. There are 8 rows in my table is the assumption. So for each of the 8 rows, I'm just trying to create the main table for this. This is my index table. This is my main table. So this is the key value. This is the address value. And this is the position where my data is actually stored. This is with respect to dense indexing. Okay. And the next one is sparse index. Now what will happen here would be, I'm just trying to reduce the size of the index table. In sparse index, instead of putting all the search keys, I'm just trying to put some search keys so that I'll be saving time whenever I try to search for the index keys. In the data file, index records appears only for a few items. Here it was for all the items, and in this case, it is only for few items. It is only for few items. Each item points to a block. So this is my block, this is my block, this is my block, this is my block. Each item points to a block. Now, how my sparse index looks like CMR? 10, 30, 70. So there might be 10, 30. After 30, it might be 50. After 50, it might be 70. I've just shown you 3 keys over here. So 10 is pointing to 10 to 20. 30 is pointing to 30 to 40. And 70 is pointing to 70, 80. And whenever there is a key called 50, it is pointing to 50, 60. So if at all I'm trying to search for a record by primary key value 20, then what? I'll be going to this 10. 10 is leading me to this particular block of memory. So I can assume that 20 might be here if at all it is not deleted. 20 might be here if at all it is not deleted. Or if at all I'm looking for a key item called 15, assume. If at all I'm looking for a key item called 15 or 35, I'll go with 35. So 10 is pointing to 10 to 20 only. I will not have a value 35 over there. Next, I look for 30. 30's address is pointing to 30 to 40. Maybe here I might find 35. So that way I'm going to work with dense and sparse indexing. Dense and sparse indexing. Now then you have the concept of secondary index. Secondary index. The secondary index can be generated by a field which has a unique value for each record. And usually you can work with the concept of a candidate key. So usually you're not working with a primary key over here. Primary key would be used for primary indexing. Whenever you're working with the concept of a secondary index, you're going to work with a secondary key, which is nothing but your candidate key. The secondary index can be generated by a field which has a unique value. Again, the condition is it should be a unique value. If at all I do not have a unique value, it would lead to a confusion. So based on what I'm going to search for, it leads to a confusion. That is the reason we are looking for a unique value, and that value is given by the concept of a candidate key. Okay. Now, whenever I'm talking about a secondary index, this follows a 2-level indexing technique. It follows 2 levels. So what? My main primary index table is divided into secondary index table, and that secondary index table is pointing to the data blocks in memory. Data blocks in memory. So here I might not have all the values with respect to the candidate key at the first level. So see, the two-level database indexing technique is used to reduce the mapping size of the first level. So here I'm just trying to reduce the mapping size. Maybe assume there are around 300 records. I'll go with only 300 records. Okay, I'll go with 300 records. So instead of going from 1 to 300, what I'm trying to do is first 100 is pointing to something, second 100 is pointing to something, third 100 is pointing to something. Okay, for the first level, a large range of numbers is selected. Because of this, the mapping size always remains small. So what I'm trying to do here is first is 100. That 100 is pointing to a block which is nothing but the second level of index. Here from 100 to 200. Next is pointing to 200 to 300. The next would be pointing to 300 to 400. That way I can go with. Okay, so whenever I'm looking for something called 120, what will happen? I'll be looking at this particular 100. So this is pointing to here, and here I'll be looking for 120. Okay, 100 is there, 110 is there, 120 is there. Okay, 120 is there. And then I go to the pointer of this particular 120 so that I get the original memory location where that particular record with roll number 120 is stored. And here, if at all I want to update this 120, I can update this. If at all I want to remove this, I can remove this. All that stuff can be done. If at all I'm looking for 250 I can go with this. So 200 pointing to 200 to 300. Here 200 is there, 210, 220, 230, 240, 250. So maybe I'll go with that 250. I haven't shown everything over there, and I've clearly differentiated the color. 100 to 200, 100 to it would be 199, then 200 to 299. This is light blue, this is purple, and this is some other color. Okay, here everything would be stored on 100. First block of memory would be 100 to 110. Second of block of memory would be 110 to 120, and next 120 to 130. All that stuff it would be stored over here, and here you will be having the complete details. Okay, and this would be stored in the RAM. This would be stored in the hard disk. Okay. Is it clear, ma? Is it clear, all of you? Now try to read clustered index, ma. All of you try to read this. Did you understand that, Ma? Were you able to understand the concept of clustered indexing? So what we are trying to do over there in clustered index, we are directly putting records, fine. Not through pointers, okay. Ma, all of you look, Ma. Here what we are trying to do is, instead of working with pointers, we are directly working with the records. And it is sometimes created on non-primary key columns, which might not be unique for each record. So whenever you want to work in a situation wherein you are not working with a concept of primary key, then you can use the concept of clustered index. Okay. So what you are trying to do over here is you are trying to create clusters because you're working with common values. So there might be students in a class, there might be employees in a department, there might be workers in a company which belong to same unit. So for such kind of situations, you are going to work with the concept of clustered index. So see, you can group 2 or more columns to get the unique value and create an index, which is called as clustered index. So it is just combination. Now what I'm trying to do over here is assume that a company recruited many employees in various departments. In this case, clustered indexing should be created for all the employees who belong to the same department. So clustered is a combination of similar things. So what I'm trying to do over here is I'm trying to create a cluster index for the employees which belong to the same department. And it is considered as a single cluster and index points to a cluster as a whole. So what is happening over here, say, department ID 1 might be having n number of people, department number 2 might be having n number of people, department number 3 might be having n number of people. So this is not a primary key over here, but this is a cluster. And each cluster is pointing to the records maybe of the employees who belong to department number 1. So see, department ID, there's a pointer which points to the record. Here, department ID is 1, the record of an employee, it might be department number 1, record, department number 1, record. This is the end of my cluster 1. Now here 2 is pointing to what? There are 4 records over here and maybe I have a 5th person or a 6th person. So what I'm trying to do, this block is full. I'm trying to connect one more block to this. So this particular thing is giving me a combination so that I can store the data. And after this, I do not have. I'm putting X over here. So if at all I want the details of the employees who work in department number 2, I can go to department ID 2, which will point me to a block of memory. There I'm directly working with the records. See, previous case, it was not record over here. It is directly record I'm working with. So this is the concept of your clustered indexing. Okay. So this is about your indexing, ma. And whenever you're working with ordered index, ma, you are going to work with a sorted list of elements. That's the only difference. Okay. I'll be telling you that later. Now we are going with the concept of hashing in DBMS. I have given you the basic definition of hashing, what I mean by a hash function, and how we are trying to store everything using a hash function. So see, I told you clearly, Amma, it can be used in order to directly search the location of a desired data. Why? Because you're just trying to calculate a hash function. Hash value, you're just trying to calculate. Data is stored in the form of data blocks whose address is generated by applying a hash function. So what you are trying to do over here is you are just trying to work with the concept of a hash function, compute hash function. Based on the hash function, you're going to store, you're going to retrieve, or you're going to update the data in the data block, which is in the memory. Okay. So situations where you actually apply the concept of hashing. So why you actually go with the concept of hash function would be whenever your database size structure is too huge, whenever the structure of the database is too huge, it might be consisting of n number of records, thousands and thousands of records. So it would be tough for us to create index value for all those number of records. So it would be tough for us to create indexing for all those number of records. In such situations, you can go for hashing, and hashing method is used to insert and retrieve data items in the database. It is not index, it is insert. Is used to insert and retrieve items in a database, as it is much faster. I told you, it is usually faster because I can directly go to the position where the data is actually placed. And hashing is an ideal method to calculate the direct location. So from the beginning, when I started hashing, I told you, you're directly working with the location. So when you have the location with you, it would be easier for you to go to that particular location without any difficulty. So that way, this particular hashing method can be used effectively. Now, there are some important terms you need to remember while you're working with the concept of hashing. First one is the data bucket. The data buckets are memory locations wherein you're storing the records. So in the previous cases, we used to call them as blocks of memory. Here we are calling it as a bucket. We are calling it as a bucket. Okay. And the next one is key. So a DBMS key is an attribute or a set of attributes which help you uniquely identify a tuple. Okay, so usually we are working on the key. That is the reason we are telling that key is an important aspect of hashing. And the most important thing would be hash function. Without a hash function, there is no concept of hashing technique. So hash function is a mapping function which maps the search keys with the actual data records. So it is something which maps your search keys with your actual records. And what is double hashing? So whenever there is a collision which is occurring, you use the concept of double hashing to resolve the issues caused by collision. So maybe you are going with one more hashing method in order to avoid the concept of collision. Okay. And whenever I'm talking about hashing methods, I've got to work with static hashing and dynamic hashing. Static hashing and dynamic hashing. I think you know what do you mean by static hashing and dynamic hashing? All of you know this? Static hashing and dynamic hashing. Are you in the class, all of you? Yes. I think that is used when you work with collision, Anil. Okay, see, whenever I am talking about static hashing, the resultant data bucket address will remain the same. The resultant data bucket address will remain the same. That is, whenever you generate an address for a student ID 10 using hashing function mod5, the resultant bucket address will be 1. So 10 mod 5, what is 10 mod 5, ma? If at all I'm working with 4 over here instead of 5, if at all I'm working with 4. So what does this give me? What does this give me? See, the student ID is 10. I'm using a hash function mod 4. What would be the resultant bucket address? Okay. See, I'm working on SID, Amma. I'm working on something called SID. I'm just writing it over here. SID is equal to 103. And I'm using a hash function mod of 5. What would be the address where SID would be stored? What would be the address where SID would be stored? Is it 4 mod 10 or 10 mod 4, Anil? 68, 3 is the right answer. Fine. So I'll be going with something called as 103 mod 5. Okay. 103 mod 5 gives me a reminder of 3. Okay. So will this bucket address change throughout the process? Will this bucket address change throughout the process? Will this bucket address change throughout the process? No. So that is the concept of your static hashing. That is the concept of your static hashing. So see here, if you generate an address for, this is all, I've modified this 10. I'm putting this as mod 5. Okay. That was the thing, right? Yes. Okay. If you generate an address for, say, student ID is equal to 10 using hashing function mod 5, the resultant bucket address will always be 1. It's not 1 over here. This is mistake. This would be 0, right? So I'm modifying this to 11. 11, this will give me 1, right? Okay. Now, student ID is 11. Hashing function is mod 5. 11 mod 5 gives me 1. So you will not see any change in the bucket address now. That is the concept of your static hashing. So look over here, 98 is there. The data record, maybe the key is 98. 98 mod 5 is what? 3. 98 mod 5 is 3. 104 mod 5 is 4. 106 mod 5 is 1. 102 mod 5 is 2. Okay, so without the concept of any collision, I am able to store over here as of now. So 98 is going into 3. Now, if at all I have got something called as 8 record number 8. 8 mod 5 is also 3. 8 mod 5 is going into 3. So it will lead to a collision. It will lead to a collision. So this is the way you're going to work with your hash function. You can take mod 5, you can take mod 3, you can take mod 8. Based on the size, you can go with anything. Okay. Yes, ma'am. 7G, what's your problem? 7G. Roll number 7G, what's your problem? Now see, if we want to insert some new record into a file, but the address of a data bucket generated by the hash function is not empty. That is what I told you with respect to 98 and 8. If you remember that 98 and 8 is pointing to the data bucket address 3, or data already exists in that address, then this situation is called as collision. Or I can say that whenever the data bucket is not empty and some other record is trying to enter into the same position, then the concept of collision occurs. Okay, we use open hashing at this particular point. That is, the next free bucket will be allocated, which is also called as your linear probing, which already Anil has mentioned. So see here, what is happening? 98 is there, and at a particular point, a record by number 8 enters. So the mod function used over here is mod 5. I cannot change this mod value. I cannot change the value 5 over here because I'm going with constant hash function. So mod 5, 98 mod 5 is 3, 8 mod 5 is 3. So here the concept of collision occurs, and once collision occurs, what I have to do is I have to look for the next empty slot in the data buckets. So here 8 is there, my 8 is pointing to 5 now. Instead of 3, it has to point to 5 because 3 was already allocated to 98. And here I have to put 8 followed by name followed by country. That particular way I'm trying to store or trying to avoid the collision. And that particular point or concept of avoiding collision is called as your open hashing. Now, the second method is when buckets are full, then a new data bucket is allocated for the same hash result and is linked after the previous one. So what I'm trying to do over here is, instead of looking for the other space in the bucket, 98 is there, it has been already allocated to 3. 98 mod 5 is 3, it is allocated to third address. Now there is 8. 8 also should be allocated to 3. Then how I am trying to do that is, after the end of this particular record, I am putting a link over here and add the record 8. continue it until 3 is coming again and again. So what I'm trying to do is, this is record of 98. Then after that, I'll be having a record of 8. If at all 103 comes, I'll be having a record of 103 added to 8. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm just trying to create a chain of records. If at all a collision occurs, that particular concept is called as close hashing or overflow chaining. Why it is called as overflow chaining is, I'm just trying to add chains to the existing records. That is the reason we are calling it as overflow chaining. Okay, so this is about your static hashing ma, and whenever a collision occurs, what you're going to work with, that is the concept. Is it clear or any questions ma? See, the next one is the problems caused by static hashing. I'm trying to reduce it using the concept of dynamic hashing. So what happens with respect to dynamic hashing would be, the buckets are added or removed dynamically on demand. So whenever a particular bucket is full, more buckets are added. More buckets are added to your existing buckets. To your existing buckets. That is the concept of your dynamic hashing. Okay. So example on dynamic hashing, and then the concept of B plus tree with example, I'll tell you in the next class. So do you have anything to ask, ma? Unit 5, file organization have started. Primary, secondary indexes, index data structure I've shown you, hash-based indexing. In tree-based indexing, I have to work with your B plus tree and ISAM. I'll be giving you an example on that. Indexes I have told you. We'll be working with that. And before this, go through this slide. This is purely theoretical. Storage. So how actually the databases are stored? We have been working, my database records are stored in file formats, which contains records I told you. So you have to remember there is primary memory, secondary memory, tertiary memory. The capacity would be from top to bottom and the speed would be from bottom to top. Primary memory is the highest speed memory. Tertiary memory is the highest capacity memory. So what do you mean by primary? What do you mean by secondary? What do you mean by tertiary storage? That is what is just specified over there. And this is comparison of the different file organizations, whatever we have studied. Hashing ISAM B plus tree, because we aren't done with B plus tree and ISAM. I'm not covering this. Once we are done with example on B plus tree and ISAM, we can go about this. I'll just share this table with you. So what are the advantages? What is the time taken? All that stuff would be there. What are the types? All that thing would be there here. Clear, ma? I think there's nothing difficult in that storage, ma. How actually the database are stored and what are the different kinds of memories that are existing, all that stuff. You have to just keep in your mind all that stuff.